evening. Welcome, everyone. Before we start our meeting, I have a small announcement. The Penfield School District community has lost a member of the Penfield High School in the past week. Sheila Camarada was a hall monitor at PHS since September 1997. We extend our sympathies to Sheila's family and friends, and we'd like to observe a moment of silence in celebration of her life. Thank you. So I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask that our district clerk leads us in the pledge.
Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So good evening again, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening. Before the start of this meeting, we had a small meet and greet to meet our acting superintendent, Dr. Putnam. I'd like to thank all the members of the community who came to welcome him and tell him how excited we are to be working with him. Thank you for being here. Our first order of business is the approval of the agenda of September 9th, please. May I have a motion, please, that the agenda be approved as submitted?
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you. 6 in favor, none opposed. Thank you. May I have a motion, please, that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda listed in your agenda?
Second.
Questions or comments? Thank you. All those in favor? 6 in favor, none opposed. Members of the community, the Board of Education has voted on a part of the consent agenda on the acceptance of recommendations from the superintendent for personnel changes. And we have appointed Terry Marsh as assistant principal for Penfield High School. We're very excited about welcoming her into the Penfield community, and I'm going to let Dr. Putnam say a few words about Terry.
Sure. Actually, maybe Terry, if you don't mind coming to the front so the board can see you. And we're very pleased to welcome Terry Marsh as the new assistant principal at Penfield High School. Terry comes to us from Gates Chi-Li Middle School, where she served as an assistant principal. Prior to that, she led a college and career readiness program and served in an administrative role at Greece Olympia High School. Ms. Marsh holds her administrative certification from the University of Rochester, her master's degree in secondary science education from SUNY Geneseo, and her bachelor's degree in biology from the University at Buffalo. Congratulations, Terry, and I actually have had the pleasure of working with Terry at Greece Olympia, and I can say she'll be a wonderful addition to the Penfield High School staff. So welcome to Penfield.
Welcome.
I just want to say, Dr. Putnam, and Board of Education.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to say I'm thrilled to be appointed tonight, and I could not be happier to become part of Penfield. The community and the district is amazing, and I look forward to starting as soon as I can. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. We're very excited to have you. I'm sure the junior class is going to be very excited too. All right. We have no special reports this evening. Do we have anybody who would like to address the board? We have no one who would like to address the board, and this is the time to meet our new student representative, Aubrey Masters. Aubrey comes to us from the junior class, and we're very excited to have her. Penfield takes great pride in having a student representative sitting with us, being the voice of the student and, of the whole student body. We're very excited to have you. I think we're going to start with the swearing in of the student representative. May I ask you to stand up, please? Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of student representative to the Board of Education
of Student Representative to the Board of Education
in the Penfield Central School District
in the Penfield Central School District
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Thank you. Congratulations. Congratulations, Aubrey. And now you get to tell us a little bit about yourself and then do your report.
I'm Aubrey Masters, and I play soccer and I run track and cross country for the school, and I'm also a member of student council, and I write for the school newspaper, The Pendulum, which I know the Board of Education hasn't been getting copies, so I was going to talk to the head of the newspaper about that this year. I'm also a PHS ambassador, so I've been showing the freshmen around the school and a few of the new transfers for the past 4 days. And the past 4 days of school have been going well. Sports are in full swing, and clubs haven't quite started, but they're going to start next week.
All right. Thank you, Aubrey. Board members, any questions or comments for Aubrey? Catherine.
Just want to say welcome, and we look forward to hearing from you every week or every time we meet. And it sounds like you're pretty busy. I hope you can. Wow, how do you have time for us? But welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Right. Thank you. We now move on to the superintendent's reports. Dr. Putnam?
Great. So I just, before I start this, just a thank you to the people who are still in the audience for coming out for the meet and greet. It meant a lot, and I appreciate it greatly. We do have some superintendent reports today. I have some student and staff honors I'm going to be going over, as well as a brief slideshow on our opening day comments for the school year. And then we'll hear from Mr. Pfeiffer around the grades 3 through 8 New York State assessment results, as well as an update on buildings and grounds and capital improvement updates. So to start off, the Penfield High School students, we have 10 that we're going to honor tonight who were chosen for NYSSMA All-State, and that stands for New York State School Music Association. So we're very honored to mention that. Students Tessa Berardi, Louisa Campbell, Bonnie Chan, Katie Koch, Sarah Koch, Leah Creathorne, Marissa Fess, Natalie Hulsa, Matt Moon, and Michael Makowski have been selected to perform at the 2014 NYSSMA All-State Conference in December. And this is a huge honor for both our students as well as our Penfield music program and the community as a whole. We have another student we'd like to recognize tonight, and he is an ad campaign winner. Penfield High School student Jake Giuseppe Design Concept has been selected for a series of billboards and posters developed for the UR Medicine's Golisano Children's Hospital to promote helmet safety in bicycling. And Jake's winning design was one of 2 chosen from a number of entries, and we do have to point out, though, that he received the highest number of votes from the selection committee, and that is a picture of Jacob standing in front of his billboard, and I just think that's great for him, for the community, for our students here, but what a great honor to have your artwork become a billboard that people from all over Rochester will be able to see. So just wanted to honor him tonight. Penfield celebrates the first day of school, and I did laugh a little because I would say the elementary schools definitely celebrated the first day of school. Not sure if the high school students were celebrating their first day of school coming back. But just a few pictures and a brief slideshow. I was able to get out at the first 2 days to all the schools and check in, and I saw a lot of brand new sneakers at all the elementary schools, shiny, shiny sneakers. And so just some pictures of Penfield High School students coming in. You might notice to the right is Dr. Maloney out waving to traffic and greeting all the buses in. So we appreciate her out there, and we look forward to seeing her in the rain and snow out there too. Bay Trail students coming in. We've heard from some parents who were here tonight about the transition into 6th grade and heard some very positive stories about the transition into our middle school. And we have elementary schools, 4 of them here in Penfield. Cobbles, the first day of school, some great kids. And Harris Hill was very excited to come back to school. Indian Landing as well, students very excited. I just will note that I had an opportunity at Indian Landing to be there. They do a first day of school assembly, and they bring all the students except for kindergarten out into the bus loop, and they sing their school song, and they greet all the students, and it was really nice to see. And that's where I saw 500 brand new pairs of sneakers. So, and Scribner as well started school. And then I wanted to point out a great picture we have here of bus driver Wayne Weber, who definitely was involved in the excitement of the first day of school, picking up those students. As I talked to the bus drivers and everybody at transportation, they really are the face of Penfield. They're the first group of people, Penfield employees, that our students see when they get on the bus that morning. And so being greeted that way on the first day of school, I think, made a lot of little kids' day. So just thanks to everybody at staff. Just an opening day comment is that we cannot open school without a lot of people working together as a team. And that goes from the transportation, the clerical work, the administrators, the teachers, the custodians, the cafeteria workers. I'm going to leave somebody out, buildings and grounds. Everybody is here, and it's amazing that every single person that works at Penfield somehow directly or indirectly touches the lives of our kids that are in those classrooms. And so just a huge thank you to every Penfield employee as well as the board for helping our students have a great start to the year this school year. And we will now turn it over to Jim, who's going to go over our assessment results.
Thank you, Dr. Putnam. It's pretty exciting to be able to come before the board now for the second time and talk about our district's performance on the New York State ELA and mathematics assessments results, this now from the 2014 school year. And also we'll touch upon some of the Regents exam results that were administered at Bay Trail as well, and how those are connected. As you might expect, it's great to be able to talk about the great success that the district has experienced, and I want to start by thanking our staff, our teachers who have done an outstanding job, our administrative staff and our TOSAs, Dr. Maloney, John Wright, who was here, Nicole Whitehead, and Christina Lenzo, who were in the TOSA position, as well as our building level administrators and assistant principals. Just tireless work to ensure that our students are adequately prepared for these assessments, and they've done a great job. As you'll see in the comparative results, we again fared very, very well compared to our cohorts in Monroe County, and continue to do so. So we'll start off by looking at our ELA results in grades 3, 4, and 5. And as you can see, the top graph shows our percentage of students who scored at a proficient level at each grade level. It's important to point out to the board and to the public, you may recall that last year these numbers probably looked like they were in the 80s or so. Last year, New York State Education Department provided us with a crosswalk because it was the first year of the Common Core aligned assessments. And so in their efforts to ensure that numbers stayed relatively stable during the first year of administration of the assessments, they provided a crosswalk for proficiency percentages. So even though some of those numbers, it elevated the numbers a little bit. And they did that for a couple of reasons. One was to ensure that the number of students who would require academic intervention services in grades 3 through 8 would not elevate rapidly, putting schools in a difficult position to try and meet those needs, but also to avoid a potential quick and very negative impact on the APPR process for teachers and principals. So it's very important to keep that in mind when we look at those percentages. Having said that, when you look at our rankings, there's two rankings there. The box to the left shows our proficiency rankings, how we did in terms of number of students or percentage of students who scored 3 or 4 on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade ELA assessments compared to our 10 component districts in Monroe 1 BOCES. And again, we've done very, very well in the top 3 there this year. The lower table to the right shows our mastery ranking, the number of students who scored at level 4. And that's an area where I think it's important to keep our board goals in mind here. Our board goals don't reference our ranking. Our board goals reference the percentage of students scoring at a proficiency level, and our goal is 85% or better. And then it's also to increase the number of students who score at the mastery level, as well as to decrease the number of students who are not reaching the level of proficiency. So that's where our work will continue. Comparatively, our results are outstanding, but in the overall percentages of proficiency, that's where we see that we have work to do. Also, as just as a point of reference, not only did we do very well comparatively to the region, but compared to the rest of New York State, the third grade average across the state was about 32% proficiency, the fourth grade average about 33% proficiency, and the fifth grade average about 30% proficiency. I always take those numbers with a grain of salt because it includes the Big Five, and it's, you know, that's not necessarily the same ball game for us. So, in terms of 3 through 5 math results, this is where we don't see the dip that we saw. When we look at our proficiency percentages across the board in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, those numbers are outstanding. And when you look at the tables and you see all ones, whether it's in reference to proficiency comparisons or mastery comparisons, just outstanding work. And it's very important to note that our 4th grade results were number 1 in New York State for mathematics. And again, just great work on the part of Dr. Maloney in her role as Director of STEM, Nicole Whitehead as a K-5 math implementation specialist. Just a ton of work that went into this effort to gain these results. And I think it's a testament to the big difference we see with math is not only do we have a great model for providing mathematics instruction in terms of our scheduling at the elementary level, but we implemented a guaranteed and viable curricula last year, 3 through really K-5, and we see the impact of that combined with our model, our scheduling model. And when we have teachers who are teaching the same content and able to collaborate about that and how to best meet kids' needs, this is what we're talking about in the Office of Instruction plan around guaranteed and viable curriculum and teachers collaborating to best meet the needs of students. Add to that our RTI model in mathematics and some other tools that we tested out last year, and just extraordinarily proud of the effort on the part of our students as well as our teachers, staff, and administrators for these results. Outstanding. Again, 4th grade, 88%, a huge jump from last year. We still got some work to do toward our goal of 85% in 3rd and 5th grade, but I'm very confident with the continued collaboration and effort that we've seen that we will be reaching those goals and continuing to see growth in our students. So outstanding results. Again, compared to New York State, 3rd grade across the state was only 42%, 4th grade 43%, and 5th grade 40%. So just outstanding work, doing a great job across the board. Science 4 continues to be very, very strong. As you see, 96% of our 4th graders are proficient in the 4th grade science test, and of that, 81% are scoring at a mastery level, a level 4. So continue to see outstanding results, and again, great job to the leadership of Dr. Maloney and the hard work of our teachers preparing our students for this assessment. And you can see our ranking comparatively there in terms of proficiency over the last 3 years, in the top 3 again. So great job to our teachers, our students, and our staff and administrators. So key findings here, our comparative results, again, are very, very positive. We do very well when compared with similar districts and the districts in our region. Our efforts to continue to align to the Common Core learning standards over the course of the last year, especially in mathematics, were very effective. We've still got work to do in that area, in the area of English language arts. We started that process late in the spring and continued through the summer, but there's a great deal of work still to be done in that area, and our teachers worked very, very hard, as I told you during an August report about all the work that went on over the course of the summer. That work will continue, and we will get there. And the positive impact, again, of our RTI model and that consistent math curriculum, a basis for teacher collaboration and to meet student needs, I think was very, very powerful. Where can we improve? Again, we need that guaranteed and viable curriculum in place in ELA to give our teachers that same opportunity for collaboration in the area of English language arts. We need to continue to develop our balanced and coherent system of assessments across the board. We've got a pretty good assessment system in place now for math, especially with the addition of iReady, but I think it's on us as a district right now and on the Office of Instruction to really have a cohesive plan for assessment across the district and to be transparent with that plan with our public, and that's an initiative that we're working on this year to really examine all of the assessments, those major assessments that are large-scale assessments across the district, look at the data that they're giving us and talk to the public and discuss with the public what that data is used for and why it's so important. And then continue to implement research or evidence-based instructional strategies and the instructional shifts to ensure that our teachers continue to employ the best strategies possible, the most effective strategies possible to ensure the success of our students. They do a great job with that, and we've got a lot of resources on professional development. It's supported by the professional development plan that the board approved in the spring, and we'll continue to work in that regard. And so our actions are really aligned with those opportunities for improvement. Further develop and implement the guaranteed and viable curricula, develop and implement the balanced and coherent system of assessments in all areas, especially in ELA, and continue to implement those research-based instructional strategies and shifts, and ensure that we're providing adequate professional development for our teachers and administrators to ensure that all of this happens. Any questions about the 3 through 5 results?
Thank you, Jim.
Break it up.
Board members, questions or comments? Barb?
I think Leslie is going to chuckle when I say this, because she knows exactly what I'm going to ask. The 3 through 5 assessments also, that includes all Penfield kids, whether they're at St. Joseph's or Finney or other schools?
These results are focused on our students
Okay.
here in the district.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Lisa?
I'm just curious, when you see the difference in the proficiencies between ELA and math, when we made this jump to Common Core, was it closer for math? I'm assuming maybe, and that's why we're like, yay, we're doing so awesome in math and we have more catching up to do in ELA?
I think there's a number of factors that have played into that gap that we see between math and ELA. I think one of the biggest ones is transitions in leadership. We went through a time where we had consistent leadership in the area of mathematics with Dr. Maloney there, but as the Common Core was coming into play, there was a transition in my position where we had an interim in place, and then also we had the Director of Humanities, so there was a transition in that position as well, where Dr. Maloney was trying to wear, you like wearing 2 hats, don't you, Dr. Maloney? I just made that connection. Was helping out with ELA, but then also we had a limited amount of support from the Office of Instruction in terms of the ASI, who was only here on a limited basis. So I think that played a lot into it. And again, I also see the consistency piece. In the past, I think at the elementary level, there's been a lot of variation in terms of approaches to English language arts instruction across our 4 buildings. And that takes away opportunity for collaboration on the part of our teachers. We're working very hard to implement common curriculum and to implement common resources so that our teachers across the district and in grades 3, 4, and 5 have the opportunity to collaborate and discuss. They are experts. They have a tremendous amount of expertise and knowledge, and we need to we're working to take better advantage of that and allow them to collaborate and put best practice in place, and we'll close that gap. We'll get there. ELA is also a little bit of a different animal. Teaching reading and writing is a little bit different than teaching mathematics. It's sometimes harder to see the progress. It's sometimes harder to measure that progress, and I think sometimes there's a lot more varied professional opinions around the best approaches in English language arts as opposed to mathematics. And we want to learn about them all. It's our opportunity for shared learning and try to figure out what's best here in the district. So we'll be working to close that gap, but a number of factors helped create it in the first place.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments? Great, thank you, Jim.
Move on to our middle school results in grades 6 through 8. So again, the top table shows our overall proficiency percentages in grades 6, 7, and 8 ELA. And again, it's important to keep in mind the crosswalk. Last year, our percentages with the crosswalk were in the 70s and 80s in ELA, and now we see them in the mid to upper 50s with the average of 57. But again, our comparative results when looking at the districts that we compare ourselves with in Monroe, 1, BOCES, still very strong. Top 4 for each of those in terms of mastery and proficiency. And for your reference, the New York State averages in 6th grade ELA was 29% proficiency, 7th grade was 30%, and 8th grade was 36%. So again, compared to the state, we do very, very well, but keeping in board, again, board goal number 1, keeping that in mind, our expectation is that we will be at 85% of our students reaching proficiency, and so that's where our work will continue in that effort. 6 through 8 math, a little bit more interesting because of some changes in the requirements for which students had to participate in assessments. So you see our proficiency percentages across the board there, and 2 at 7th grade and 8th grade both noted with asterisks. And those asterisks are to remind the public and the board that this was the first year that we were allowed to implement a math waiver for students who were in 7th or 8th grade who were taking a Regents exam, either in integrated algebra 1 or geometry. those students we didn't have to make those students take the New York State assessment for 7th grade or 8th grade mathematics. Similar, we've seen that in 8th grade science. We'll talk about that in a moment. But we definitely did see a little bit of a dip in terms of especially 7th grade, but 8th grade as well, where we've got our highest performing students who are taking accelerated classes. They're taking Regents level classes who no longer took the 7th or 8th grade state assessment, and so that impacted our proficiency numbers in a negative way. And in some cases, I think impacted our ranking, especially when you look at the proficiency rankings in 7th grade mathematics. We took our best students and they didn't take the test. That's not necessarily the case in other districts that we compare ourselves to. Some did use both. Some chose, like we did, not to implement or to implement the waiver and not double test our students. So we definitely had an impact there. Across the state, 6th grade average was 38%, 7th grade average was 33%, and the 8th grade average was only 22% proficiency across the state. So again, comparatively, we're doing very, very well. And so I thought it would be important, since those students didn't take the 7th and 8th grade assessments in mathematics, for the board and the public to see how did our students do on those Regents exams. And in Common Core Algebra in grades 7 and 8 combined, 100% of our 7th and 8th graders passed the test, and 23% of our students achieved mastery. Now, one question you might ask is, well, how do we do in mastery comparatively in the past? And last year, with the integrated algebra Regents exam, 85% of our students were at mastery. So we do see a big shift in the level of expectation and rigor with that test. So the passing rate stayed the same, 100%, but we have seen that mastery rate drop a little bit. And that's true across the district 7 to 12. Last year, 52% of our students, 7 through 12, achieved mastery in integrated algebra. So that's a number that we'll continue to work on. I think our new math model at Bay Trail will help us in that regard. And in addition, the way that Winton Buddington is scheduling supports for students who are in the Common Core classes to work. And then we also had the opportunity for our students who didn't score mastery but who wanted to work toward that designation on their diploma, to take a summer review course, and they could take the old algebra exam and try and get an 85 or better so that they could work toward that mastery designation. So. A lot of hard work going into that as well. In terms of 8th grade science, again, this is an area where we do have a large number of students who take living environment Regents in 8th grade, so they do not take our the New York State 8th grade science assessment. And I think we see that impact when you look at our level 4s. It's great that 87% of our students are achieving a proficiency, at 33% achieving mastery, but our highest performing science students are taking a Regents level class. And you can see our rankings there below. And in terms of our living environment results for our 8th graders, 100% pass, and almost 94% of our 8th graders achieve mastery on that Regents exam. So outstanding results, and again, just a huge thank you to our teachers and our students and the administrators and our teacher on special assignments who help with all of these things. It's a tremendous effort, and the results are outstanding. So the key findings and the actions are very similar here. Again, our comparative results are very positive. Our efforts have been working in terms of aligning to the Common Core learning standards and embedding the instructional shifts and research-based instructional strategies, but we still got work to do in that area. That work will continue. We definitely saw a negative impact of having our highest performing students not take those state assessments, but I'm very happy with how well they performed on the Regents assessments that they did take. We will continue to work in mathematics, ELA, and science to develop and implement the guaranteed and valuable curricula, working on that balanced system of assessments and using instructional shifts and instructional research and evidence-based instructional strategies. And you see that again, support that with our professional learning plan, making sure that we're equipping our teachers to do what needs to be done and working with them to ensure that it gets done. Any questions?
Thank you, Jim. Board members, any questions or comments? Camille?
I just wanted to make a comment that a lot of times we hear teachers and administrators of the board talking about doing what's best for kids. And I just want to say thank you for making a decision to accept that waiver for New York State and not having those kids double tested. It's a perfect example of that was doing what's best for the students. And you didn't worry about the fact that it may look bad for a year or two that our scores are low, because that's not what mattered. And so I just wanted to thank you for that. I also think it's a great example of how we're trying to use the minimum amount of testing necessary to drive decisions. And that here's an example of where we could have done more testing but decided not to. Because every time you do more testing, then there's less teaching and less opportunities for that engaged learning. So, so thank you for that.
I'd like to take credit for that, but, you know, it was really the teachers who stepped forward and said, you know what, we don't want our kids to have to take 2 tests. If we have this opportunity, obviously that does impact their overall APPR scores, because they don't, their load, the way their courses are set up, the Regents class doesn't carry the weight to impact their scores. It's really the New York State assessment scores. So it's a huge credit to the teachers to put the students before themselves and say we believe this is the right thing to do as well. So again, we have great staff here at Penfield who do really are student-focused, student-centered, and put kids first. And again, similarly with the 3 to 5 results, I think it's important for us to stay focused on that board goal of our proficiency percentages of 85% or better. We will continue to be focused on that and working toward improving them in ELA and math and science.
Catherine?
And maybe I should know this, because it's about the state expectation. Do you know, I mean, when you look at the proficiency throughout the whole state, the numbers are not that impressive. So what is the state looking for in terms of a timeline? Do you have that information? Do you know?
In terms of when they expect the numbers to start to rise?
Yeah.
Well, they haven't given us a timeline, but I think where you get the sense of what their timeline is when you look at the cohort of 2022 will be the first class who's required to achieve the college and career ready standard on all Regents exams in order to graduate. So I look at it as that's really our timeline.
Yeah.
It follows that cohort of students right on through, and those numbers are going to need to be up for those students to be prepared for success on those Regents exams. So I don't think we'll see that in a document or a memo from NYSED anywhere, but that to me is what makes sense in terms of that timeline.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
That was a great report. Thank you for everyone's work. If you could please extend this board's appreciation for all the hard work that goes into allowing us to celebrate our students that way.
I will definitely do that. Thank you.
Our next presentation is our Summer Facilities Projects Update. It will be presented by Alan McNiff. And after this, we'll do another update around our capital improvement projects. But these projects that Alan's going to go through all took place this summer within our own building and grounds folks. Can't get far without that.
Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. You hear me okay?
Yes.
How about now?
Yeah.
All right, that's fine. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. It gives me an opportunity to explain a lot of the work that we do during the summer beyond just the cleaning and preparing of buildings every year on top of the usage that happens in the buildings every year during the summertime. So what I'm going to show you tonight are some of the projects that we did internally with either vendors or our own staff. And the list that I'm going to show you is not the complete list. I'm basically going to highlight the major aspects of things that we did do and show you some images and some things that you can expect to see during the fall season. The writing's a little small, but let me read them through you fairly quickly here. Over at Bay Trail, LED wall pack lighting. That's coming in the fall. We're working on that currently right now. You'll see that for a lot of these. Basically, if you recall me speaking about that during our energy policy discussions, we're in the process of replacing the LED security lighting on the outside of the building. You'll see I'll have some numbers for you later on, but the RG&E rebates that are available are really beneficial to us. We spend the money up front and we get a significant amount of it back in return, but additionally it also reduces our consumption, and also the level of lighting that we get has dramatically changed as well. And I'll show you some of those images later on. Continuing with Bay Trail, replacement of ceiling tiles in the corridors around the auditorium, precast cleaning. At Cobbles, we did, again, LED wall pack lighting, refinishing the gymnasium floor. The cafeteria and stage, we completely replaced the sound system. Also at the stage and at the cafeteria, new curtains. And I do want to provide the note that Jason Fleming installed them. He measured them out. We took care of the ordering, coordination of that, and he took care of it with his staff and summer staff. Did an excellent job. New GPS clock system, we'll be installing that this fall. At Harris Hill, we put new carpet and new ceilings in clusters 4 and 5. That's approximately 20,000 square feet of ceilings and floor. I'll have some images of that. Made a dramatic difference over there. The teachers can't stop talking about how nice it looks in there now. New toilet partitions and multiple toilet rooms. Eliminated the remaining HVAC pneumatic controls with electronic controls. For those of you who were part of our board tour during February, I mentioned that. That basically takes us off the old system, and we have everything electronically controlled now. We can get rid of that old compressor that we had down in that boiler room that you might have saw. It's a nice step to finish that up at that building. Also at Harris Hill, we did the curtains at that cafeteria and stage as well, and as well, Jason Fleming's group also did that. We removed an old in-floor art room clay trays, and we have this circumstance at some of the other elementaries as well, but we had some real significant problems during the school year last year where they were backing up, they were causing issues. They weren't used for art any longer, so what we did is we removed them, put direct piping in there, and we're putting new cabinets in there and get rid of the issues. The fire alarm panel upgrade was the last thing that we did at Harris Hill. At the high school, again, LED wall pack lighting. We re-lamped the auditorium house lighting. The reason I put it on here is it's not just a simple task. We actually have a specialty contractor who has to come in and do that, and you have to do it every 5 years based upon the lights, how they basically fade over time. So we'd be proactive, we replace them all at one time so that we don't have missing ones throughout the school year, and are asked the questions, why are these lights not being replaced? Because it's difficult to get to them. So obviously, every 5 years, we've put that into a maintenance plan where we do that and do it during the summertime period. We repainted all of the lines on the running track. We put new speed bumps for the high school drive. Main office entrance reconfiguration, we changed that whole greeting area, working with Tom and Howard on that, getting that squared away, and of course with Leslie. And some things you'll also see is the Commons door replacement in this fall, winter time period. We ordered them in June, so they take some lead time, but you'll see that they were in need of replacement there. Indian Landing, again, a fire panel upgrade over there. Scribner LED wall pack lighting. It says coming fall, but it finished today, so they're done with that. Replaced floor grates at all the entrances, replaced 90% of all ceiling tiles in the corridors. That was one of my things. Is when I came in here, I wanted to really push on replacing those ceilings. They were tired and needed a new look. We repainted the entire grid. It used to be an old silver-looking style. We repainted it, put new ceiling tile in there, and the teachers and Scott Hirschler haven't commented so much about it. They love the way it looks now. Precast cleaning, again, I can't wait to show you some of those pictures of what we did over there with the precast on the outside of the building. At the district office, we are replacing the boiler. It's from the late 60s, early 70s time period, and we're expecting, I'll get a $3,000 credit on the unit for the RG&E. District-wide, radio system upgrade and reprogramming. This is coming in fall and winter. This is one of the items that came about with regards to the vulnerability assessment, about improving our infrastructure with regards to radio communication. What that will do for us is provide 2 repeaters that are district-wide repeaters that will be able to communicate across the entire district. Currently, we don't have that ability, so what that will involve is actually an antenna on top of the high school fly for the auditorium, and we're changing some configuration over at Bay Trail. So that'll give us the ability to be able to speak on separate channels the way we want to across the district. It gives us a maintenance channel to talk throughout not only the buildings and ground staff, but also the head custodians whenever we need to, without influencing the rest of the radio usage at each of the buildings. Asphalt crack filling and sealing, we did this throughout all of the areas that are not fairly new, but we did that throughout the district. Various HVAC upgrades, signage audit. One thing you'll see me highlight a couple things here is I had a signage audit started. It will continue into the fall by a consultant that basically will give their recommendations on how to address and specifically design the configuration of all the signage throughout the district, and that means exterior and interior. That's wayfinding, things of that nature that I'd like to get us into a uniformity, and you'll start to see some of the things that we'll be implementing into the future. But I expect some of those that report sometime in the fall. Door number signs, again, another vulnerability item, ties in with the signage. I'll show you an example of what to expect, but that item was basically, we should be identifying each of our door entrances with larger numbers that can be easily identified by any municipality, whether it be the sheriff's department, fire department, ourselves, easily without having difficulty. So you'll see the signage that we'll be installing into the fall and early winter. And rule signage, we're going to replace, if you may or may not remember, we had those old yellow signs inside a wood panel structure. We have a new system that we've already have, they're over at our shop, we'll be installing into the fall, that are a little bit more appealing, and actually people are able to read them and see them. Transportation, buildings and grounds, we've replaced the bus driver's break room floor. And we installed a new entrance sign. It says to be installed September. It was installed yesterday, so it's up now. So if you drive by it on 5 Mile Line Road, you can't help but notice it. So I want to show you some pictures. Oh, the pictures don't come out as great as I expected to in the light here. But if you can see on the left-hand side of these images, there is the area that is clean and the area that wasn't cleaned yet. And this was consistent throughout most of Scribner and Bay Trail and all the precast. I had our team of buildings and ground staff go through and pressure wash as much of the precast that we could. And it, in my opinion, has dramatically changed the look of the cleanliness of the building, and looks brand new, essentially. So it was a great thing for our staff to do, because it had buildings and ground staff both doing a partial aspect of each of it. Scribner corridor ceilings, again, we've replaced 90% of the corridors throughout the building. It looks better without the lights on it. Harris Hill, again, you can't see from images that well, but again, you can see the carpet replacement and ceiling replacements here. Give you an idea of relationship here. If you look on the left-hand picture, the carpet color transition, the old is obvious and the new is obvious, so you can see the difference between the two finishes. Again, cluster 5, carpets and ceilings, you can see the carpet as well. So door signage, this is an example. We spent a little bit of time designing what is this going to look like. We want to make sure that signage isn't just a block letter on a building, has a little bit of a visual appeal to it and a uniformity to it. So I actually spent a little time with Tom and Howard. I wanted their input. At the time, this was developed back into springtime, if you will. I wanted to do something that I thought was going to look well, and I was glad that they gave me some good input. And this is what to expect. You'll see at all of the buildings. It'll follow the same design cues that came off of the sign that you'll see at Buildings and Grounds and Transportation, and with obviously the color renditions, and as well as the design characteristics with it. A couple of shots of the stage curtains at Cobbles, and they're basically the same pictures that you'll see at Harris Hill. Very nice new finishes. I wish I could have had some of the old photos so you can see the dramatic difference. Now, with the LED wall pack lighting, I wanted to show a picture of what the old lighting looked like, which is on the left-hand side there. Fixtures are about this big, somewhere in that age. A lot of them were the sodium style, where they're yellow-looking, faded-looking, only get a certain amount of coverage, and they take a lot of energy. The one on the right-hand side, which is primarily throughout most of the buildings, is probably about this big. And the lighting that comes off them is fairly significant, and actually a much durable fixture as well. These are a couple of photos that I pulled off our security cameras with the new lighting. And you can certainly tell the difference, how bright that those areas are. But what's the important thing I wanted to also mention with this is with the new LED wall pack systems, their cutoff is pretty dramatic. Whereas sodiums, what I mean by cutoff is the light that goes out and distributed out towards the neighbors. The light cuts off before it gets there, so they don't get the direct lighting coming to them from the old lighting systems. But it gives us the security aspect of what we really need. And the one thing I do want to point out with one of these images, now keep in mind these are security cameras, so it's not as good as you'd see in real life, but nonetheless, if you look into the parking lot, off to the right-hand side in the picture to the left, you'll see the white light. You can see the distribution. That is a new LED LED fixture that we put in the parking lot space. And you can see how much it distributes out over there as opposed to the one all the way to the left, which is the old sodium yellow fixtures. So just to give you kind of idea of what to expect as we potentially down the road replacing the exterior lighting in the parking lots with new LED fixtures as well. So with that, I wanted to explain a little bit on the money side of what we spent for the fixtures. This is exciting for me. I will tell you, it's also exciting for our staff. They enjoy this type of thing where we know we're spending money, but we're getting money back. So to tell you, at Cobbles, on all the fixtures, we spent $1,760, and we'll get a rebate of $1,760. That's actually a little inaccurate right now. I found out yesterday, I have been in conversation with RG&E, and we get rebates based up to $200 per fixture. Well, we bought the fixtures for less than that. So I asked them the question, I said, can I get some of the money back on the labor side? And they are fine with that. So actually, the $1,760 will be more than that on the rebate. So
We like that.
yeah, well, so do I. And that holds true for the Bay Trail, Scribner, and the high school sites as well. So you can kind of get an idea. It's a pretty good investment. So I expect that we'll be getting more than $17,000 back from RG&E. And my intention, with support from DO, was to continue that process at the other schools as well, so we can kind of continue that money rolling forward as we move forward. And then we should be receiving the district office boiler rebate as well. So I just wanted to point that out. So it was a good. That's all I have. Anybody has any questions what we have going on?
Wow, well, you've been busy. Board members, questions or comments? Catherine?
And I thought you guys just put your feet up all summer long, right?
Everyone seems to think that.
I know, that's why I said that, because you had said that before. Though, you already answered my question about precast cleaning, so I didn't know what that was, so thank you for that. And then, what is a GPS clock system?
Oh, a lot of our buildings, most of the buildings, except for Cobbles, what it is, it's a head-end, basically, unit that's installed inside the building that has a wire that goes up to a transmitter on top of the roof that takes a GPS signal like a satellite radio, if
Okay.
you will. And the clocks themselves sync to that unit that's installed in the building. So for instance, for Cobbles, I'll most likely install that main unit inside the auditorium, and then the clocks will receive that signal from that unit, and it's updated continuously. So the clocks are always synced,
Yeah.
and they're always going back to that main hub system.
Okay,
And we have that basically installed at all the buildings at this point besides Cobbles.
okay, thank you.
So,
Oh, and the other thing is, I love the door signage. That looks wonderful, plus the colors. Can't beat those colors, but it looks really nice.
and the one thing with those two is just to point out is that the white is reflective. So any light that gets distributed on it will easily pop for anybody who comes up to the building if it's not lit up correctly. So, and I just want to say, without the custodial staff at each of the buildings and the buildings and ground staff, this stuff would not be accomplished the way it had been during this time period. It's to them that all of this stuff was done and was done well. So I just wanted to highlight that. Any other questions?
Barb?
Well, I'm excited for all of your savings that you got us, and you know where I'm going with this. Just saying, with all that extra money, that rooftop garden's looking better and better.
I know. It's not going to die.
No, it won't die. Until I'm off the board, it's not going to die. But, because did you see the article in the paper sometime this summer about a rooftop garden downtown?
I did see that, yes.
Yeah. Just saying, if they can do it, we can do it. But to be continued.
To be continued.
But thank you
Little
for-
by little, step by step.
And please tell your staff, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's all exciting,
Appreciate it.
fresh.
Any other questions or comments?
Can I just make a quick comment? I just, with Alan here, just, from being a new acting superintendent, I appreciate all the work that went into this, even down to the sign for the outside. You've always seeked input and information from all the stakeholders, and at that point, the building principals and associate principal and who's going to be impacted. And Alan and I had a chat today over at the new transportation sign, so I stopped and maybe parked illegally, so the buses had a hard time getting out, but I couldn't help it because I needed to see that sign, and it looks terrific. So it really does pop, and one of the bus drivers who was over there has been in the district for 16 years and mentioned they've always wanted a new sign, and they're raving about the sign as well. It's really clear to see. Building and Grounds is sort of hidden where it's located off a 5 Mile line, and that sign just really does bring a whole new change. And it fits in with the signage that'll go on the outside of the doors. So it's really a great addition. That just kudos to Alan, because that really comes down to all the work you put into it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Right. I do have a question for you.
Sure.
When you were touring the buildings over the winter, there was this ceiling problem in Harris Hill. Is that fixed?
We patched it. So what I mean by that is, if you recall, that the roofs are on the old 5-year plan, and it needs to still be addressed, but we had a contractor come out and fix it for the time being, but that only will last so long, so we have to continually do the repairs as needed until the replacement is done.
And when is it up for replacing? Can you remind me of that?
As far as the time period, well,
For Harris Hill?
For Harris Hill, we're in the discussions with the Facilities Committee about trying to put that potentially on a expedited need list, if you will. As far as an idea if that project were to vote in this, let's say, spring of this year, we probably talking implementation the following year time period, somewhere in that range. Is that correct?
That's right.
Assessment?
Okay, thank you. And also, I'm sure our neighbors appreciate all the speed bumps on High School Drive. So far, traffic has been good in the morning, so thank you to the students and the parents. Let's hope we can keep it up that way, all year long. But thank you so much, because this is just a lot of work, and you've mentioned so many things, some that I remember when you were touring the buildings, and some of it that we've seen, like the high school entryway, is just beautiful now and extremely welcoming. Love all the stage and curtain changes. That was my question about Cobbles, Vic, about what was going on there. So thank you so much to you and your staff for everything you've been doing
Thank you
all
very much.
summer.
Much appreciated.
So next up in our superintendent reports is our capital improvement updates, and we have Vic Tomaselli and Gary Huffman here to walk us through the capital improvement projects that are also taking place and have taken place this summer and into this school year.
Good evening. I'm just going to take 1 minute. I think all of you had a hand in selecting Alan, and I think that was hitting a ball out of the park. Huge success. I worked with him for a number of years prior to him coming on board, and I'm proud. Just listening and seeing all that he's done,
We
very
agree
proud
with
of
you.
him. So, that said, capital improvement project, as you know, we are in the midst of a project right now. We're touching Scribner, Bay Trail, Indian Landing, and the high school in the future coming up. Currently, go to the next slide. Currently, we're working in Scribner Entrance and the Bay Trail. What was accomplished this summer was the replacement of the electrical switchgear and transformer at Bay Trail. If you recall, going back to the previous large project, there were some issues with that service, taking care of all the electrical and load demands of that building. This project addresses all of that. The transformer and switchgear is done, completed. And we are also simultaneously working on the new entrance and office that is on schedule. We expect by the end of this month to be moving Scott back in from his temporary facilities into his permanent office suite. Let's go back a second. Just to highlight, all the demolition was completed, the framing is done. You'll see a picture coming up about that, the wiring, wallboard, et cetera. As I said, we're at the 3/4 turn on the office so that we can finish that up by the end of the month. Temporary emergency exiting was completed prior to school. We asked the assistant principal last week. She was very pleased with what was accomplished there for the students. It's a safe exiting if they need it. And as I said, the project entrance and the office itself will be completing by the end of the month. And move-in will be immediately following. Alan's crew will be assisting with that. Okay. Just a couple of pictures of the steel for the Scribner entrance, the framing for the Scribner entrance. And that'll be producing, or when complete, will be a secure entrance for the public to come into the building. And so that the Scott's personnel will have control of that entrance as to who comes in and how they come in. So that's a very good asset for that building. Just another picture of the Scribner Teachers Lounge with new cabinetry that's been installed. A picture of the Bay Trail switchgear. That was a big job. There was a lot of work involved with that, and the Bay Trail transformer. As I say, that's a brand new service now that will fully handle that Bay Trail building. As you recall, the sewer at Indian Landing failed last academic year, and it was incorporated, rolled into this current project to get done this summer. We had an outstanding contractor in Village Construction. They came in, seamlessly replaced that sewer pipe, had a very good relationship with the town of Brighton, so there were no issues there whatsoever. The town of Brighton was very comfortable with them. The bathrooms were offline during the summer, but the staff was good with that. Alan made provisions with the staff ahead of time. And restoration is complete. The sewer's done. It was done in time for school. There were no issues. So and the crawl space, which was also part of this. If you recall, the soil in the crawl space was found to still have some asbestos in it, so we did an encapsulation by putting a concrete layer in that entire crawl space. So that was addressed and finished. So we're completely done. We're closing out Indian Landing. We expect to have final payment to the contractor in October. Mark can do his final cost reports, and that'll be behind us. Bay Trail gym and locker rooms, Scribner roofing, that was completed this summer. Locker room demolition was finished. Contractors are currently working on the plumbing and electrical rough-ins for the locker rooms. We are doing the footing excavations for the new gym storage building located out back. If you recall, SCD required, when the project was submitted to them, to put a fire truck road for access for fire vehicles behind the gym. There was never one there. That has been installed. We've encountered some issues in the gym as far as the vermiculite. As we go through the project, it's created some challenges for us. It was never known to be there. It's in the cavity voids of the walls, of the exterior walls. I think it was put there years ago for insulation when the building was constructed. But and all the work we did at Bay Trail in the last project never ran into it. This time we did. Bay Trail boys locker room demolition, just a picture of that. Reinforced earth, that's the top left photograph is the new access road I referred to earlier, and hydrants being installed for water and fire protection around the back of the gym for the new storage addition. As I alluded earlier, contractors encountered vermiculite in the wall spaces of the gymnasium and the locker rooms. It is an insulating material. As I said, no one knew it was there until we started demolition, and that has slowed the project and impacted budget, and we continue to be faced with those challenges as I sit here today. Contractors have been limited as to what they could do. We've been addressing it as a team. It's a long subject matter in our OACMs as to how to tackle and get beyond this. Our plan is to paint the gym while leaving as much, basically triaging what was originally destined to be removed from the walls, we're going to leave, just so we don't pull bolts out and vermiculite comes out with it. We're going to install the new lights and deliver the gym back to the district. We're working on, our original plan was to deliver that by the 1st of October, then it looked like it was going to be November. So at this point now, I think we're faced with, as the last bullet says, is that we're going to get done, we're going to paint the gym, put the lights up, slowly back out, ask for forgiveness, sorry, and come back at it another day, and Alan's crew is going to do the floor refinishing in the spring.
So, go ahead. If I could just follow
Go
up
ahead.
a little bit on that, because I want to make sure everyone understands exactly what is going on. So Gary explained it very well, but vermiculite, you're all familiar with it because you can buy it as potting soil. It's sort of a fluffy rock, if you will. It's a naturally occurring substance. It's mined and then used as insulating material and potting soil. Not all vermiculite contains asbestos, but some does. There was one particular mine where essentially a vein of asbestos ran through the vermiculite. That they didn't know that it was mined and it was distributed. There's no test for that, so there's no guarantee that the vermiculite that's in the wall cavities of the gymnasium contains asbestos. It may or it may not. We don't know. SED requires that therefore all vermiculite be treated as if it does. What the challenge that poses that Gary alluded to is when you think about what was to be done in that gymnasium, it was the locker room renovations clearly, but in the gym space itself also new basketball backboards, moving additional wall pads, those kinds of things. Anything that goes on or comes off the wall now is a challenge because if you take something off the wall and you pull a mounting screw or bolt off and it exposes vermiculite, it has to be done under abatement conditions. Putting things on the wall that involves penetrations, again, abatement conditions. So not only does it slow things down, but it drives up the expense of the project. We are behind schedule. We'd originally intended to turn that over, but rather than turn it over, we will essentially be painting the gym, brightening it up. It will look better, but the floor won't be finished. It takes a month to finish a floor. It needs to be sanded, painted, striped, and then it has to cure for a long period of time. And we've got winter coming, and all the activities have been moved outside in the interim. So it'll be temporarily striped because there will be the new baskets will be up, and the striping won't match, so we'll do temporary striping. It will work. We're working with the principal, with Pete and with Mary Beth Walker. So we'll make it work for the fall and then come back at it for floor finishing in the spring. There's really, at this point, the other choice would be to try and bull ahead and hope for good weather, and I don't think it's not reasonable. So, as Gary says, we'll back slowly and carefully away and come at it again a second time. It is going to impact also what we intended to do. We'd certainly hope to clean up there's conduit on those walls that'll be abandoned in place. So I expect we'll be coming back at it again at some future point. Probably not with this project. We're still under budget or on budget with this project, but the additional work has caused it to be very, very tight. There's not much left here. So we want to be able to get done what we can, and then we'll come back at again another day, perhaps with a different authorization or in a different budget. So we did have I probably should have brought this up earlier, but you can see here the sort of examples of what's on those walls. Everywhere where there's a little clip or a screw or those boards that's bolted to the wall. So those are the kinds of things that might remain in place. The advantage is they're up high. You have to look up to see them, and if they're painted, and they'll blend in. And the space does need freshening anyway, so I think it'll look a lot better. With the better lighting, brighter lighting, and a paint job. It's not, this is not a disaster, but it certainly is a setback. So, Vic, did you want to take over for the East Gym? Or were there any questions before we leave that? I guess maybe.
Thank you, Mark. Board members, questions or comments?
Vic, did you want to take over for the East Gym? Yep.
Thank you for having me here tonight, and I'll just repeat, I didn't have the opportunity to know Alan very well before he joined Penfield, but I had only heard good things about him. Now I get to see all the good things as well, so you got a good man there. As you know, we've been working on two current projects which are quote-unquote on the boards. The East Gym, Penfield Athletics and Field Lights work in the East Gym, and then the field lights out on the fields. We did complete the construction documents and submitted all of the paperwork and documents to the state in August. SED logged them in a week or so after we submitted them, but they got logged into the system on August 20th. We anticipate review and approval somewhere in February or March. And I think just a general update, there's some good news on the SED front. They're reporting that they are doing architectural reviews in about a month and a half to 2 months, and mechanical electrical reviews in about 5.5 months, which is an improved, still a long time, but it's an improvement over their 7 to 8 months that we encountered last year. So, the SED review period is the sooner we can get review and approval back, the sooner we can bid and get on the streets and get competitive bidding at the right time of year for the benefit of the district.
The one thing on this slide that I want to make sure we point out is the piece of ongoing budget analysis. So the drawings have been done, have been submitted to SED. And one of the concerns that we have and that we're working our way through now is re-estimating budget. The lights portion of this project is on track. There have been no surprises there. But you'll recall that gym space, the East Gym, has the rubber floor that is similar. Those of you who are on the board and remember, we removed as an emergency project a similar rubber floor at Harris Hill a number of years ago. And because that floor had failed, but those poured solid rubber floors contain mercury. So they need to be treated as an abatement when they're removed. The budget for this project included similar removal and abatement as was contained in the Harris Hill project, but we're running into a set of changed requirements. So what's being required now for those removals is well in excess of what we'd ever contemplated or run into before. So we have some budget issues around that gym and remediation space. We're in the process of analyzing that, re-estimating the project. We're working our way through that. It's, again, we have some time to work through and some options to look at. But I just wanted to give the board that heads up that, we will be talking about that as we move throughout the fall and into the winter, just how we're going to handle that issue. So that's that with regard to East Gym Security Project.
Security project, again, the other half of the vote last spring. We are working on the design documents for the security project. It involves cameras, improving the entries at several of the schools, and door hardware, basically just tightening up the buildings, going through pretty much every building in the district, every school building in the district. We have to, we're in the process of design. We need to review some of the design options for the entryways at the elementary schools or at the schools with the principals. We're looking at submitting documents to the state in October, and we're on target with that. And again, we're looking at an approximate review and approval time from the state in April or May of next spring. So it's all moving forward, and that's all I have. So if you have any questions, please feel free.
Thank you. Board members, questions or comments? Thank you very much. We
You're
look
welcome.
forward to hearing from you again.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
And this concludes our superintendent's reports. Board members, we are on page 2 of the agenda with board business, facilities. Holy Ascension of Christ Orthodox Church, request for easement. The Holy Ascension of Christ Orthodox Church has requested an easement for the connection of a storm sewer, the Penfield Central School District stormwater infrastructure on the north side of Indian Landing Elementary School to accommodate the proposed construction of parking lot areas for their facility at 650 North Landing Road. The easement and connection on our property is requested to avoid a new stormwater connection at the storm sewer in North Landing Road. A connection in North Landing Road is difficult because of the other utility infrastructure that is in place along the road. There is an existing easement for a stormwater connection. However, the proposed connection does not lie within the existing easement. The new easement language covers the appropriate location and also eliminates the previous easement. Our civil engineer has reviewed the design drawings and has confirmed that there should be no adverse effect to allowing the church to connect to our storm sewer that connects to the town of Brighton's storm sewer. Mr. Alan McNiff has reviewed the application and approves. The school attorney has reviewed the easement language. It is recommended that the following resolution be approved. So may I have a motion, please, that the Board of Education authorize the superintendent of schools to negotiate final terms and to approve a sanitary sewer easement to the Holy Ascension of Christ Orthodox Church for the purpose of connecting a new storm sewer to the Penfield Central School District storm sewer infrastructure on the north side of Indian Landing Elementary School.
So moved.
Questions or comments? Thank you. All those in favor? 6 in favor, none opposed. We have a series of change orders in our agenda on page 3 and 4. These change orders have been reviewed by and are supported by the architect Vic Tomaselli, project manager Gary Huffman, clerk of the works Alan McNiff, and assistant superintendent for business Mark Sansucci. May I have a motion, please, that the change orders listed in your agenda be approved?
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? Thank you. All those in favor? 6 in favor, none opposed. Thank you. Financial items. We are hereby looking to reestablish the unemployment insurance reserve. And rather than reading the whole thing, I would like to ask Mark to speak about this for a little bit.
Sure. The district currently has, and in fact has had for over 20 years, an unemployment insurance reserve, which is used to, it's currently $147,000 that's used to, as a buffer against sudden spikes in unemployment costs for the district. The auditors have requested a copy of the original establishing language for that particular reserve. That's part of their practice, and as you know, statewide, everyone's been tightening up on requirements around reserves. So they wanted to see the original establishing language. It's been in place for a very long time, and I don't have a copy of the original language. It predates me here. So rather than try and go back through minutes, and for many, many years, we decided that it would be simpler and more straightforward to simply reauthorize it. So the language that you see before you tonight isn't for a new reserve or a different reserve or for a reserve that's for a different purpose. It's simply to reauthorize the one that the existing reserve, so we have fresh authorization language, and we don't have to go back through an unknown number of years of minutes.
Thank you, Mark, for the explanation. When you say it predates you, I'm thinking, when was that?
Part of the challenge was when they asked for it, I said, well, sure, can you help me? Like, when does it first appear in our financials? But their records don't go back that far either. So we just decided this was more straightforward.
All right, thank you. Board members, any questions or comments about Mark's explanations? All right, you've had the opportunity to examine the whole resolution that is in your agenda on page 5. May I have a motion that this resolution that is in your agenda on page 5 be approved?
Second.
Questions or comments? Thank you. All in favor? 6 in favor, none opposed. Thank you. And this resolution shall take effect immediately. We have no policy review at this point, but we are meeting next week, so brace yourselves. We have some very exciting policies coming. Appointment. The purchasing agent continues to be on extended leave. At this time, it is recommended that the district appoints Mr. William Maloney to serve as deputy purchasing agent. May I have a motion, please, that Mr. William Maloney be appointed deputy purchasing agent for the Penfield Central School District?
So moved.
Questions or comments? Thank you. All those in favor? 6 in favor, none opposed. Thank you. Qualified lead evaluator appointment. May I have a motion, please, that Dr. Leslie Maloney is certified as qualified lead evaluator of teachers and having successfully completed the training requirements prescribed in the appropriate regulations, be approved.
Second.
Questions or comments? Thank you. All those in favor? 6 in favor, none opposed. Thank you. President's remarks or presentations, I just have a few. I already thanked the community for coming to the meet and greet, but I'll thank you guys again because I think it was very important for anybody who wanted to meet Dr. Putnam to be here. So thank you for taking the time to come this evening. Mark is not here, but I will make you aware that we received today a notice regarding his being our legislative rep for NISBA, and so I gladly volunteer him to go to that meeting in Canandaigua. He knows about it. It's on a Saturday morning. He will be representing us there and looking at the resolutions with the rest of the area. And Marcia has sent us the booklet of the resolution, so if you can start reviewing those so that we are ready for Mark when he comes back and, we can talk about them and decide what we want to support and not support there. Also, I have sent you a concert meeting sign up. I heard from a few of you only, and please, I need to hear from you as soon as possible. If I don't hear from you, I'm volunteering you for everything. And that's about it as far as President's remark. We have no unfinished business that I know of and no new business that I know of. So may I have a motion, please, that the meeting be adjourned at 8:20 p.m.
Second.
Questions or comments? Thank you. All those in favor? 6 in favor, none opposed. Thank you.